We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Next up, I want us to consider just how united these particular states are. Now, Scott, nice simple question for you.
I'm the wrong person to come to for this one, buddy.
I
was discussing which country would be a good exit plan to reach to earlier this morning with a Liberty Nation colleague who I will...
Here's a Florida.
The nation of Florida under King Ron DeSantis. Scott, nice simple one for you here. Is the union healthier today than it was last week?
I think it continues to decline in its health, Mark, and it has for some time. I'm not optimistic. I, want to fight for it, and I think there's value there for a nation conceived in liberty to fight for. But I'm not convinced that we're headed down a good path.
Okay, Jeff, moving on for this one. Surely elections are supposed to be at least the way to bring people together rather than to split them apart, aren't they?
I don't know that that's ever been the case. I mean, America's been divided before. I mean, and even in unity, there is still division because Americans disagree on a lot of things. We have two parties. We have a bunch of different warring ideologies. But I do agree that we are headed towards a very unhealthy place, and we've been headed there for years. People like to blame it on Trump. Trump was just the symptom of the disease. And unfortunately, I get asked the question, do you think it's going to get better? And I do. I am white-pilled, but I do think that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think that we're heading into that worse right now. These elections are just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, we still got investigations from the FBI into Trump. A lot of people believe that those investigations are politically motivated, not against just Trump, but also his allies. So people are getting the sense that he's getting railroaded. If the GOP does end up retaking the House, they're going to be investigating the FBI, Hunter Biden, all kinds of things. And so, I mean, we're already divided enough, but it's probably going to get worse because of these issues and whatever else might come up in the next, couple of years or so.
All right, great. Graham, moving on to you. Joe Biden, he promised when he was inaugurated in 2020, January 2021, when he was inaugurated, he promised unity. He was going to be the unity president. How do you think that stands today? And how do you think that stands going on from these recent elections?
Well, it almost seems...
We're all giggling here because we can kind of figure out where this is going to go. But it's a valid question to ask because maybe there's an element after the elections here that he doesn't have to worry about campaigning again because he's probably not going to be ready to run in 2024, right? So he has the opportunity. That's why I asked. Sorry, Graham, please carry on.
No, I think we almost get tired of hearing, which we have, I think, at least since the presidency of George W. Bush, we have heard from the people on the other side, whichever president it is, the people on the other side say, oh, this guy is dividing us. We've never been so divided as forever before. That I remember that when George W. Bush was president, when Barack Obama was president, obviously when Trump was president, and now when Biden is president. But I can't remember really I can't remember George W. Bush or Barack Obama or Barack Obama came close, but I really don't recall any of those three presidents, Trump, Obama, George W. Bush, actually going after basically half the electorate of the country as hard as Joe Biden has done. And it's incredible that on one day he can literally turn around and say that he's brought back civility to the White House and he's uniting the country. And then literally 5 minutes later, he'll say, but all of those MAGA Republicans are dangerous. And it's incredible. And the thing is, unfortunately, I really believe, and I hate to believe the worst of this country because, I came here and I'm very glad I did move to this country. And I actually still believe it is just about still the greatest country in the world. And I hate to think the worst of Americans, but I honestly believe that a great many Americans now have gotten to the point where they feel that there are more things that divide us than unite us. And I think there are a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who are no longer even interested in talking about unity. They don't want it. I think there are a lot of Democrat voters out there, they don't want unity. They feel they have nothing whatsoever in common with conservatives, with Republicans. They think that those people are mean and evil and selfish and only care about themselves and their precious constitutional rights. And I really don't believe there is a prevailing will in the country for us to come back to a place of commonality.
All right, Scott. Sorry, Tim. What about you? What do you think? Is there a commonality between all the sides?
Well, the Democratic Party has got more progressive. The Republican Party has got more conservative, nationalist, populist. And so it begs the question of whether the center can hold, because any democracy, which is the big word this year, suddenly everybody's talking about democracy, not a constitutional republic, which is what we are. But be that as it may, for our form of government to survive, the center has to hold. You can't have the extremes. And I think Biden succeeded in convincing enough people that anybody that voted for Trump is extreme and is a threat to democracy, that it was just enough to stave off what could have been, a red tide that washed over them. Both sides retreated to their corners. And the proof of that, the irrefutable proof, is John Fetterman. There's no way that guy could possibly win a Senate seat without the idea that you're simply going to vote for your tribe. Politics have become so tribal that if John Fetterman can win, and maybe the Democrats will say the same thing about Herschel Walker, that if
already are.
Win, yes, they already are.
Maybe if the Republicans in Pennsylvania ran a Pennsylvanian for the office of senator from Pennsylvania, that might have helped their cause as well, Tim.
I mean, it's a unique idea, Scott.
He was a ridiculous candidate, I thought, at his outset. He's a TV guy. That's why Trump favored him. Trump has that TV thing. That's what he likes, his celebrity. And that's what cost them this Senate race.
There's nothing to say, though, that the other candidate that was running against Oz would have done any better, because none of them were very impressive either.
So it seems that we are united in disagreement. Gentlemen, thanks very much for being here. And that's about all we have time for on this week's special edition of Liberty Nation Radio here on the Radio America Network. I want to thank our guests, Tim Donner, Jeff Charles, Graham J. Noble, and Mr. Scott D. Cosenza Esquire. And of course, extend my thanks to you, the listeners, for joining us. My final thought for this week, I'll just leave you with a simple observation from Joseph Schumpeter, the Austrian economist. He noted, quote, "Politicians are like bad horsemen who are so preoccupied with staying in the saddle that they can't bother about where they're going," end quote. And I feel we can all agree that about sums up modern politics. We're just strapped to the horse and along for the bumpy ride. Thanks for listening. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative Five. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe space.
You only did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative Five.